The timeline of the Volters is a mysterious affair. Attempting to pinpoint their origins is a nigh on impossible task. The Volters are named in at least two Endless games, Endless Space and Endless Legend, their playable factions. So in this sense, we see a faction begin on their home planet and rise to the stars. It's unique in the Endless series. But despite the fact that they are in both of these games and that we see them make this progress, there is still so much of the Volters that we don't know about. We can talk about the Volters for so long as well, because we know more about them than many other factions in the other games. So that's what we'll do today. We're going to look at where the Volters came from, we're going to look at their story through Endless Legend and Endless Space and find out who are the Volters. So our first encounter with the Volters is in the introductory video to Dungeon of the Endless, and it's here that we encounter our first problem. We see a ship emerge from the right hand side of the screen, and immediately questions are raised. Let's have a look at the information that we're given a little more closely. This is the SS Success, and it is also a penal transport. This means that it's transporting prisoners. However, if the SS Success has any connotations to the real-life version of itself, the HMS Success, this penal transport is no regular penal transport. The HMS Success was a penal transport that the British used to transport prisoners from Britain to Australia. So if we use this real-life example, the SS Success is not taking these prisoners to another prison, it's taking them to a whole new place to be prisoners. We also notice that the flight computer knows that it's in the Auriga system, which is significant because as the search for Auriga pop-up shows us in Endless Space, it shows us that nobody in Endless Space knows where Auriga is. Opbot might have an idea of where Auriga is, but he's not 100% sure, and the idea of the search for Auriga is that nobody really knows where it is until they're actually there and they see the husk of knowledge. Couple this with the fact that they are going at 299,000 kilometers per hour, which means it's clearing a planet the size of Neptune every 10 minutes. This then raises the question, who owns this ship? On the Amplitude forums, there have already been discussions as to who owns this ship, and correlations have been drawn up to show that this ship looks like a Dreadnought class ship from the United Empire. However, the United Empire's Dreadnought is tall rather than wide like this penal transport, and the United Empire's Dreadnought's 4 engines at the back do not fit the same pattern as this ship. The classification of the ship even says that it is a penal transport, not a penal dreadnought, though that's a flimsy argument at best. But if we look at the dreadnoughts and the transports of every ship in the Endless Space faction roster, they don't match, none of them match with this ship. However, most of the heroes in Dungeon of the Endless look like humans, they're basically humans. And if we use what we know from Endless Space, the human factions, the extra human factions, the Sheridan, Pilgrim and Horatio, all stem from the United Empire. It is only the Volters that don't clearly do so. So on the one hand, we have a situation where the penal transport is aiming to go to colonize Auriga, which the United Empire shouldn't be aware of. They shouldn't be aware that Auriga is in that area. But on the other hand, we have the fact that the United Empire basically has a monopoly on the humans across the games. The piece of evidence that makes me believe that this is not in fact the United Empire and is indeed a faction that has yet to be introduced to us is the lifeboat Stephanie. More specifically, what's actually written on her side. Now this is just my opinion, and it's very much open to debate because we haven't got a lot to go on here, but that pattern on the side, those look like they could be words to the Volters, that those could actually be their language. It is mentioned in the Volters opening cinematic to the Endless Legend campaign that the words they find, the things that they find after the Great Quake on Auriga, the endless technology they find bears their words, it has language that they can read. The language of the Volters appears runic in nature, as we can see from a very small image of their writing on the back of this guy's hammer. Some of these patterns look almost identical to the ones on the side of the LB Stephanie, and that is the reason why I think the patterns on the side of the LB Stephanie are actually writing and the United Empire doesn't write in this sort of way. It's for this reason I believe that the Volters are in fact from a faction that hasn't been introduced to us just yet. So after the LB Stephanie has been deployed from the SS Success, it crashes into Auriga, but it doesn't just crash, it punches through the crust straight into a very deep part of the Husk of Knowledge. Not much is revealed to us in the original video from this point, but a new video that arrived on the Endless forums shows that the Husk of Knowledge's security doors lock into place because the computer has decided that it is being hacked. But what is it being hacked by? Depending on which ship you choose at the beginning of the Dungeon of the Endless, depends on how many survivors you have in the ship. But there aren't many survivors, I don't think there are in fact any survivors, who are actually capable of hacking Endless technology. But there is one consistent survivor, and that's the Crystal. Now, whichever race the Volters stem from, we now know from the use of the Crystal in Dungeon of the Endless that their race has at least unlocked part of the power of dust, in the sense that they use it for power, they use it for electrical power. But what needs to be recognised about the Crystal is that it must be the thing that the Endless computer has decided is trying to hack it. We can't forget either that the creatures in the Husk of Knowledge are just drawn to it. There are a handful of enemies that completely ignore living things, the survivors, and just go straight for the Crystal. This Crystal is incredibly important to the Volters' story. So how do I know that it's the Crystal that's actually attempting to hack the Endless computer? It's just a process of elimination. The ship has crashed into the planet. If the Endless computer has decided that a ship crashing into the planet is a hacking attempt, then the Endless aren't as sophisticated as we think they are, and I think they are meant to be pretty sophisticated. So the hacking attempt has to be a genuine hacking attempt, and that can only be performed by the Crystal because nothing else can do it. The only person capable of doing that in Dungeon of the Endless is, by a long shot, Opbot. But Opbot isn't designed for that sort of thing. So perhaps the next question to ask is, why are the doors being locked? The Endless computer has detected that it's being hacked. Why has it decided to lock the doors? Perhaps the first thought is that the Endless computer has decided to protect itself by locking the doors. It has detected that a ship has punched through the crust into the laboratories, and a hacking attempt is now in process, so it has decided to lock all the doors. Or maybe, because we know that the Husk of Knowledge is a xenobiological science building, perhaps it's locking the doors in an attempt to protect Auriga. As was discussed in a previous episode, we know the Husk of Knowledge is harbouring one of the greatest scourges that could be released onto a galaxy: the necrophages. It has decided to lock the doors in an attempt to make sure that the necrophages and anything else really in the Husk of Knowledge, to make sure that they can't get out. Of course, however, the Volters in Dungeon of the Endless are capable of opening those locked doors and allowing the necrophage scourge to roam free around the Husk of Knowledge. It's in the depths of the Husk of Knowledge, in the so-called Dungeon of the Endless, that the Volters begin to stagnate. They can't find a way out, and they must begin to try and survive within those caverns. In a constant war with the necrophages, the Volters are actually capable of maintaining civilization in the Dungeon of the Endless. They are able to redevelop a culture centered around a line of leaders called the Zolya. They even develop a religion based on the legends that they once lived in space, This religion is called the Great Orrery. The Great Orrery seems to double as a church of faith for the Volters, and also as a council to the Zolia leaders. But the teachings of the Great Orrery seem to make the Volters very traditionalist. It's due to this traditionalism that some people have decided that the Volters represent dwarves as a stereotypical legendary faction. The Volters grow up with stories of having once floated through space, being capable of living up there, but they know life only in the cavern. They know only of space due to this idea that there are stars. There are generations of Volters who don't know what the sky looks like, and so for centuries, for generations, a story of the night sky has descended down to these new Volters who will one day emerge from the Dungeon of the Endless due to the Great Quake. The story of Endless Legend as a whole is that Auriga is dying. It is going through a period of geo-atmospheric instability. As the Great Quake opens up sections of the Husk of Knowledge, the Volters not only discover these ancient relics that Zolia tells us that they recognize, that bears their words, their symbols, but they also come across the ruins of Opbot. Opbot is a central figure in the story of the Volters. He is one of the survivors of the crash of the SS Success. He is not necessarily one of the survivors of the LB Stephanie, but he is definitely a survivor of the SS Success. He is not one of the characters that you find in the Husk of Knowledge, like Hikensha, who is quite clearly a Hisho from Endless Space. Opbot was aboard the SS Success as something, and we don't know what exactly. He was a surgeon, at least. Opbot's function was as a surgeon, but we don't know if he was on the prison ship as the prison ship's surgeon, or he's on the prison ship because he's a prisoner because he was an over-enthusiastic surgeon, as it says in his description. I personally believe that Opbot was not a prisoner aboard that ship. He was the surgeon of the ship, and this is due to the story that is told about Opbot through the Volters questline in Endless Legend. Opbot tells us that he remembers almost losing his mind. He remembers a room of supreme serenity, that it had all the tools that he recognized, and it was clean and it was light, and he liked it. However, he was given patience so that he would do his surgery thing, but perhaps due to a problem in his programming, seeing blood, seeing lots and lots of blood, tends to make him go a little bit crazy. But this doesn't mean that he was on the prison ship as the surgeon. This could easily be that he was a surgeon back on the planet where the Volters came from, and that he was put on this prison ship because he went crazy whilst doing surgery and killed everyone. I think Opbot was the surgeon on the prison ship because he identifies the Volters as being the group of people, the descendants of the people he killed. And I believe that shows he was the surgeon on the prison ship. Why would he identify the descendants, these Volters, as being descendants of the people he killed on a completely separate planet? It would make more sense to identify these people as the descendants of the people he killed aboard the ship, a much more direct descendants. After finding Opbot in one of these vaults that has been opened by the Great Quake, they decide to activate him to find out who he is, and upon being activated, Opbot doesn't immediately remember who he is. And through a long quest line, Opbot decides that he will dedicate himself to the first of the bloodline, Zolia, During one of the quests in Endless Legend, the Volters go in search of an impregnable fortress that they say they once owned, that legend says that they once owned. However, Opbot believes and tells First of the Bloodline Zolia that this impregnable fortress is in fact a ship. After this ship is fixed by the Volters, the quest line ends and we start to go into endless space. Now, the Volters make it to endless space, but Auriga does not. So we have to assume that the Volters make it off Auriga by fixing the Argosy and getting off Auriga that way. There's reason to believe that the Volters aren't the only race that make it off Auriga, but the Volters certainly are able to find another home after Auriga. They colonize a tundra planet, and it is uncertain how much time passes by, but at a point during their survival on this planet, they are forced off by some pirates, and they become wanderers across the galaxy. This is where the game Endless Space starts for the Volters. They have found a Terran planet that they have been able to colonize, and it's from here that they are going to expand across the galaxy. It is also at this time that we are informed Opbot was also able to make it off Auriga, as First of the Bloodline Zolia made room for him on the Argosy, escaping Auriga. Not only this, but Opbot thinks he knows how to get back to Auriga. But it's from this point on that the story of the Volters is dictated by the player, and so ends the lore. I really hope you've enjoyed watching this video, this lore video, and please tell me what you think about it. Please tell me if you think these theories have absolutely any grounding, and I hope you can come along for the next episode. I'm not 100% sure what I'll be doing, so I'm thinking we'll do a videos together type thing, where I'll take suggestions in the comments section. Also, please comment on any theories that you have to do with the Volters, or any other factions in fact, because I will be reading them and I'll be commenting on them, and I love to read them. It's great to see that people like to watch these videos, so go ahead and comment, and you'll be hearing from me. Also, I should probably inform you that my occupation, my actual job, has started again, hence partly the reason why this video took so long. I am in fact a teacher, so my priority is teaching my students, but I will be trying to create these videos. However, I don't like to go so long without posting up a video, but these lore videos take a lot of time. So let's again have a videos together idea, where maybe you can give me an idea of what kind of videos to do that I can get done in a week whilst also being able to juggle these teaching things. I have a few ideas, but I'd like to try and stay away from Let's Plays for now. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and goodbye.